I am pleased to announce that after a long hiatus, we are back to making videos, preparing them, and posting them on our channel as soon as we can get them out. I am also glad to be doing the first video in a long while, with Jazzy doing the next after this one. Today we'll be covering a Pixar classic, and I'm sure almost everyone at least, who has finished this film left feeling at least a little bit famished after seeing all the delicious meals. And that movie is Ratatouille. For those who do not know the film, Ratatouille is a 2007 Pixar work directed by Brad Bird. It's centered around Remy, a rat with exceptional sense of taste and smell. There are 4 points that we will cover in this review of how Ratatouille is surprisingly plural adjacent, even though it's probably one of the movies that people would expect the least to have plural representation or any sort of representation of that sort. But there is a lot to look for, and even things that just pop out if you've had certain experiences. A lot of plurals and collectives may relate to certain experiences in this film. So let's jump right into it. The first point is the aspect of Ratatouille that focuses on Remy's relationship with the figure of Gusteau, the famous French chef who died due to a bad review and the loss of his restaurant star. Remy starts seeing and interacting with the chef after being separated from his family in the wake of an urgent evacuation. Gusteau best represents a factive, a headmate in a system who is sourced from someone or something who has existed in the same world as that body, that shared body. Gusteau is native to the same world that Remy's body is housed in. Therefore, a headmate of him would, in Remy's perspective, be considered a factive. Gusteau, in the perspective of a body in this outer world, would be considered a fictive, given Ratatouille's status as a fictional film. Anyway, Gusteau could also be considered a spiritual headmate, given that before meeting the chef in phantom form, Remy learned that he had died, so he learned that before meeting Gusteau. It is a possibility that Gusteau, as a disembodied spirit, bonded to Remy either due to the rat's sophisticated senses and love for food, or just randomly. Although Gusteau states that he is a figment of Remy's imagination, and Remy acknowledges this as well, calling Gusteau a pretend figure, this is still a plural or at least plural adjacent experience in its own right. Gusteau's commentary on his own existence, no matter what he thinks of it specifically, can be considered a display of self-awareness. There are plenty of those who would technically be considered headmates who regard themselves as imaginary, and that is their own right to do so. Even if Remy considers Gusteau a manifestation of his subconscious thoughts, that would be an instance of having a daemon or thought form representing subconsciousness, inner thoughts or voice or even soul. Remy and Gusteau's interactions appear occasionally, very occasionally, throughout the movie, despite Gusteau's consistency. This is similar to headmates in general, whether spiritual or psychological, factive or fictive or whatever, whose existences aren't just waved off as if they've never existed. The second point is the aspect that focuses on Remy and Linguini working together to survive kitchen life and maintain the restaurant's reputation. The events of Remy controlling Linguini's body using strands of that body's hair, that was actually very hilarious. I'm sure a lot of people may have found kind of nonsensical, but that best represents co-fronting, the action of multiple headmates controlling a body together. This obviously isn't the same thing as co-fronting, given that Remy and Linguini do not literally share a physical body, but it does carry the same sense because it captures the commonly chaotic or confusing or even just stressful or even exciting feeling of co-fronting very well. Linguini himself best represents a host, a headmate of a system who controls the body the most. Oh, that rhymes. Something to point out in this aspect, however, is at a specific point in the movie, the one in which Remy controls Linguini's body while Linguini is asleep in order to appear normal to Colette, best represents switching, the action of headmates switching control of the body. This would specifically be amnesic switching, in which the headmate who switched in does not receive the memories of their predecessor. There are different types of amnesic switching, like emotional amnesia would involve recalling the event, like what happened, but not feeling any emotional connection to it, not feeling like they've been there in that event. But this is straight up, he has no idea what's going on. Linguini is absolutely clueless when Colette slaps the body awake out of disappointed anger and frustration. Speaking of disappointment and frustration, the third point is the aspect that focuses on Remy's resentment of Linguini for taking credit for his cooking work or food art. As a host-adjacent figure, Linguini is the one who people perceive initially when it comes to creations or actions. In systems, a feeling similar to Remy's may be experienced when the host of that collective is given credit for things that they may have done in collaboration with other headmates, or even things that other headmates have done without their input at all. As the movie progressed, Remy went from fearing for his exposure to hoping for it. He may have realized that he has every right to take credit for what he has created, regardless of which body has been used to create the various dishes. Not to mention, Linguini didn't exactly help with this either, given that he had a conflict with Remy because of the fact that Remy was a bit fed up with not being recognized for his work. Remy may have also felt invisible relative to Linguini, because the only time Remy was actually noticed if he was being attacked to the point of near death. Certain headmates and systems may feel that any good they do is automatically attributed to the host, or like the host, heavy air quotes, because a lot of singlets tend to assume that a system only has one host. Anyway, whether the hosts themselves do this purposefully as a sort of either defense mechanism against being Plural in general, or a bunch of issues that they themselves have to work out, or if this attribution is forced by singlets in the outer world who do not generally recognize anyone beyond the host. While any bad that non-host system members do is exaggerated and villainized by society, especially in its media products. Looking at you, horror movie industry. Split. This brings us to the fourth and final point, the aspect of the movie that focuses on Remy's struggle with intense stigmatization. As a rat, Remy is constantly targeted by humans to the point where nothing he does can be done without a literal human shield, such as Linguini, unless he has a death wish, of course. This is akin to the common experience of headmates being unable to express themselves in the way that they would want, whether this be for taking credit for their own work, or even just interacting with others in the outer world, without facing unnecessarily negative consequences such as being fake claimed or ostracized. It is an unfair dilemma of either staying forever invisible or having negative attention brought to them, all because plurality is seen as unhealthy or dangerous in mainstream society. The words of Anton Ego in his review of Gusteau's a little bit after the climax of the movie emphasize this point.
The world is often unkind to new talent, new creations.
This also applies to plurality, both in the specific sense of the individual talents and creations of non-host headmates, and the general sense of plurality as a whole. While plurality is not even a new phenomenon, not by a long shot, it's been around for centuries. It's a very old experience. This society sees the outward and public expression of modern-day systems to be new. As a result, it is hostile toward innocent individuals for being themselves in a similar way that people are hostile toward Remy and his talents because of the rat body he is in. These four aspects of Ratatouille display how the movie portrays plural adjacency, and therefore indirectly portrays plurality, exceptionally well for a movie whose creative team most likely had no intention of doing so. It is one of the many pieces of media that do this unintentionally brilliant display of plural adjacent experiences, and it is a delight of ours to bring these pieces of media to the light and explain how exactly they can earn their place as #relatable to the plural community. That is all that I have for you today, all of our viewers on the channel, and stay tuned for the next video that will be done in most likely a few weeks, in the coming weeks, hopefully. I hope everyone has a great rest of the morning, afternoon, evening, or night.